Hey guys, welcome. My name is Asaf Cohen, and like some of you in the audience and some of those of us joining online, like some of you, I too have been killed by Jack Bauer. I want to welcome you to the SAG-AFTRA Foundation, which is different from the union. And guys, they get not a single dollar from our dues dollars, so nonprofit completely, and they do all kinds of wonderful programs such as this. To the SAG-AFTRA Foundation, Middle Eastern, North African, South Asian actors breaking the mold. And there's a lot of mold in this town. I'm just going to take a couple minutes before we get our incredible panelists and our amazing moderator up here, just to give just a slight overview. Those of you, some of you may know me, or I've been on the SAG-AFTRA and beforehand the SAG national and local boards for about 7 years, working on a whole host of different topics, including diversity, which is very near and dear to my heart and to many of us. I see quite a wonderfully diverse group here tonight, and welcome also to those of us who are joining online via the stream. You know, diversity or lack thereof has been in the news recently. The whole hashtag for Oscars So White has really put a spotlight on this important topic. And you know, those of us who are here in this room, you know, we stand shoulder to shoulder with our African American brothers and sisters, our Latinos, Asian Americans, and all the other categories are you know, the LGBT community, PWD. But there's also another category which we see is kind of getting slipped under the rug, under the Persian rug, one might say. What we and you know, we're always trying to more accurately portray the American scene on screen, you know, and it's a diverse tapestry. And you know, from all the way from the Western Africa, from Northwestern Africa, from Morocco, all the way to Afghanistan, all the way to India, Pakistan, there's hundreds of millions of people, and many of those are in our country, and many of those are in our union, and we have those performers, and we think it's important to have those people portrayed on screen. And tonight we have an incredible panel. We have trailblazers. Each and every one is a rock star in truly, and they've achieved a great level of success, and I'm excited because I'm a fan of every single one of them. I'm just really quickly, Aline Elasmar, who you might know, she was on all of last season of Unreal. She is phenomenal, fierce actress, a friend of mine. I'm so happy that she's here. A lot to learn from her, and how to navigate the ethnic lines. Azita Ghanizada is fantastic, incredible actress. I got to do a movie with her a while ago. She was brilliant. She was on Alphas. She just got some crazy acting nomination awards at Sundance. She was all the rage. Brilliant person. One of the people who was driving the attention on this, on what Middle Eastern actors and North African actors are facing when it comes to diversity and how we fit in or don't fit in when it comes to having little boxes that we can check off. She's brilliant and really approached me and said, we need to talk about this. And I said, come on down. Navid Negahban is if those of you got to see the stoning of Soraya M., I saw it with him and I couldn't look at him. I was so angry at him. He was so good. One of the sweetest guys. You probably know him from Homeland as Abu Nazir. He's also hysterically funny. If you've ever gotten a chance to see him do comedy, you wouldn't know it. He's brilliant. And speaking of comedy, we have Asif Mandvi here tonight. You guys know him from The Brink, from The Daily Show, from numerous movies. He's brilliant. He's wonderful. Super, super smart. Way too witty. And we also have Maz frickin' Jobrani in the house. Maz is, you know, those who don't know, you should know. He's a stand-up legend. He's brilliant. He's wow. He's going to be. Just got a pilot. Superior Donuts. There was a Broadway show. He wrote and starred in this movie called Jimmy Westwood, American Hero, which is coming out later this year. He is fantastic. These guys are rock stars. Truly, truly rock stars. Our moderator is insanely brilliant and the perfect person to do this tonight. Camille Allick is spent many years in the entertainment industry. She's the programming director of Muslims on Screen and Television, on the board of directors for Arab Film Festival. She's consulted on numerous TV shows, including Homeland. Currently, she's the vice president on the board of LA Beirut Sister Cities, the Arab American National Museum, the LA Steering Committee, and Department of Homeland Security and LA Roundtable. So clearly not qualified at all. No, she's brilliant, and we're lucky to have her be as a moderator. And and this is a very diverse group. And we have these 5 incredible panelists who are going to be here. And just so, let's be really clear here. You could have 30 different people from this region of the world and have 60 different opinions. So, of course, we're only seeing a slice of the pie, but what these brilliant artists have been able to do and to really move their careers forward is inspirational. And I see people in this audience who have also done the same. There's a lot to be learned on how you can carve your own path. So one last thing, I want to say thank you very, very much to everyone at the SAG-AFTRA Foundation, to Dennis and to Sid Wilson, and to the SAG-AFTRA Diversity Department, Ellen Wang and Adam Moore, and especially our National Chair of Diversity, EEO, Bertilla Damas, who is a rock star. And without further ado, here is Camille Allick.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much, Asa, for the beautiful introduction from all of us. And thank you all for being here tonight. I'm excited about this conversation, and thanks so much to the SAG-AFTRA Foundation for being so open to this conversation. So as he mentioned about the diversity has become such a big issue right now in the news. There's been a lot of conversations about how with all the new outlets for programming and content, how diversity, we've seen broadcast shows opening up a little bit to try to compete with cable programming. And we've also heard the negative side where we've seen that Oscar nominations have not kept up with that kind of thing, and how that organization is trying to create change for impact in the future. So having said that, we're all here about Middle East and South Asian actor experience and what those roles look like today. So let's start there. We know the landscape from previous years. There's been a lot of talk about stereotypes and portrayals of terrorists and cab drivers and submissive women, but how does it look today? And I want to throw this to the entire panel. In your experience, where are we in the dial today on that?
We still have cab drivers. There's cab drivers. There's still terrorists. There's still submissive women. I think that some shows try to show the areas of gray. It's always interesting when someone takes on, I've read some scripts here and there where they had a character that was an Arab character or something of that, from that part of the world, who maybe is fighting against America, but it's a little grayer, the reason why they go into that. So it's kind of nice to have that. But I still think we're far from having it be a place where you go, it's the Middle Eastern FBI agent. I mean, sometimes I played a Secret Service agent in an Arab American Secret Service agent.
You've played a lot of FBI agents.
Have I played a lot of FBI agents?
Didn't you play an FBI agent in a movie or something?
Yeah, it was an interpreter.
The interpreter was Secret Service agent.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is that we still, when you hear FBI agent, they don't think of us first. Still.
They think of you first.
They don't think of you. I think it's you.
Yeah.
Because I'm playing an FBI agent in a show.
Well, there you go.
So
So
it's
there's
just
2
you that
FBI
they don't
agents
think
in
of,
15 years.
And I've been a DEA.
He drives a cab. but
Okay,
he's
see,
an
there we
FBI.
go.
As I also think that, now there is definitely more of a dialogue. I know that my background comes into play as kind of a unique choice to play further on in the history of the show when they actually read me and you go to a test level or whatever happens, and they get really curious and they ask me questions. They're like, what languages do you speak? And, how do you feel about this? And all of those other things. And luckily, I do have the ability to speak other languages, and I can bring that to them. And that has opened up because I am, I identify as American, but I also identify as ethnic American, I think, as most of us do. So I have the ability to bring both of those sides to it. I mean, on one hand, I was born overseas, and the other hand, I'm a girl from Virginia. So I kind of merge those two into all the roles that I play, and I kind of show both sides to myself. So yeah, I mean,
Well, and I also want to point out that we have the quintessential terrorist on our panel, which is Abunas here.
Well, thank you very much. Thanks for the introduction.
But
Big fan.
Right. But in speaking to that, you know, you were able to have a role that, even
Blow
though it
something
was
up.
the villain in the story, you actually brought complexity. Can you speak to that and how you brought that to this role?
Well, that was an interesting journey because when you worked on Homeland, so you know about the journey of the character, especially you work with the good writers, with the writers on that. It was a little bit difficult because at the beginning they didn't know where the character is going, and the problem that we have, I mean, sometimes we have talked, and that most of the guys, most of the Iranian guys, or most of the Middle Eastern actors, they say, "Oh, I don't want to play a terrorist." The thing is that you're not playing it. You shouldn't label your own character when you're going and you're playing a role on a project. Is the audience's job to judge you? It's not for you to judge yourself. So when I played Abu, he was just a man. He was a father. He was a teacher. He was a freedom fighter. He was fighting for his beliefs. So you don't create. You need to be cautious not to create a caricature of the character. And it was amazing. I mean, we were shooting in Israel, and there were Israeli people who were approaching me, and they were saying, "Oh my God, I feel so bad for your son." I mean, it was so bad, and I felt it. I felt the pain of the character. So just staying truthful to the character, I believe.
And was that, just so we can hear, were those things that you were able to decide as an actor to bring to that role? Were there things that you were able to add to the character that maybe wasn't initially written into the role?
A little bit. I mean, we had a very writers. They had our writers were very. I would say they were very brave, and they were trying to. I remember, for example, Henry, when we were working on my character. Henry was one of the people who was writing my character, and then Alex was writing it. So when we sat down, when we were talking, it was we were discovering the character as we were going further into the show. Right at the beginning, Abu. I just don't want to take too much time, but one of the things that happened. We had an idea who the character is, but the character was created in the pilot. And just the moment that I'm walking into the room, and Damien is beating Walker. What happened is that the embrace that is there is not written on the script. So what happened at that moment, that set the tone for the character. And right from then on, and there were some guest directors that I had to stand my ground, and there were things that they wanted me to do, and I didn't want to do it. I refused doing those parts, and it got to the point that I said, so, I'm dying, but what else do you want to do to me? So, but I just tried to keep the integrity of the character.
I think that's what's important about having actors from these backgrounds, obviously playing these parts. You guys, you know, Jack Shaheen does he did a book called Real Bad Arabs, which is about the parts that Arabs have had to play throughout time. And he uses an example. I forget what the movie was, but it was a big movie where there's a scene where there's a historical character who walks into a church, and he's a Muslim, and there's a cross on the ground, and he's supposed to walk past the cross, but the Muslim actor who was playing the part told the director that Muslims also actually believe in Jesus as their prophets. So the Muslim actor brought to the attention of the director, I think it was a Ridley Scott or a Kingdom of Heaven, right? And he said that this character would pick this cross up. And it was just a moment, like he was saying, that he can say, hey, I feel that my character being, like you said, a freedom fighter, a father, would not act this way. So it's important to have people from our backgrounds in these parts. The other thing, though, that you asked, which was important, I think, is you were asking about the writers. I think the most important thing is for us to be writers and producers and create our own stuff. That's something that you, being on the Daily Show, you were able to do all kinds of reports that had nothing to do with your background and have fun with it. And you were probably involved in a lot of that.
Yeah, I think ultimately the diversity question really is much more important behind the scenes than it is even on the screen. You know, because when you have writers and creators of content who are coming from a diverse background, and you know, then you start getting stories, and you start, you know, you can always have a great actor infuse a character with humanity and integrity, but it, you know, it's not always easy, because what's written on the page is like, sit down, woman, and shut up, and now you got to figure out how to make that, like, you know, have
Bring it to life,
humanity. Sit down, woman, please, sit down. No, really, please, sit down. You know, so it's like,
Clearly, he wasn't
Would you
talking
sit
to a Middle
down?
Eastern
Sit down,
woman.
Just
please. sit down.
If it was a Middle Eastern woman, he would be 10 inches shorter when she talked to her that way. But
right. Well, that's true. So, you know, you always have to, you know, there were many times when, I mean, going back to your original question, I think it has gotten a lot better, you know. I remember years ago, there was a movie that came out called Hidalgo. Do you remember
yes,
this?
I remember this.
Audition for that. That was my
Who remembers Hidalgo? Yeah. So I had an audition for this movie, and America had just invaded Iraq, and it was right on the sort of the heels of the Iraq invasion, and there was a line in this movie where the white guy is going off to the Middle East to run in this horse race against all. It was the whole thing was like basically the war in the Middle East. Like he was going to go defeat all these Arabs in this horse race, right? And so his girlfriend says to him, "Go kick some Arabian ass, cowboy." And I read that and I was like, I can't be in this movie. Like I can't be in a movie where yesterday we just invaded Iraq and now there's a movie which says go kick some Arabian ass cowboy. And, you know, so I think there's a little bit more cognizance of that kind of stuff than when I first started out in this business, you know.
I agree. I mean, I've seen just in the times I've worked with writers on these projects that an awareness. So even though it doesn't always translate onto the screen, I do think that a lot of times writers in the room are trying to make a better effort towards it. But I think you hit the nail on the head, both of you, Maz and Asif, is that we don't have a lot of people of these backgrounds in the room.
If I may say, add something, see that the thing is that we do have people, but the people, they don't spend the time, or they don't take the time to go and truly investigate or educate themselves about what they are writing. When I did American Sniper, I'm playing this Iraqi man, so I went and I spent time with Iraqi families. I went, I sat at their table, I ate with them, I saw how they are interacting with each other, and that gave me a freedom when I'm there to be courteous to their customs or honor the way that they are. The problem that we have right now is that sometimes our writers, they are writing the project, the bulk of the project, the whole project gets picked up, and there are teeny tiny lines there that those lines are not being corrected, and what's going to happen is that you're disrespecting and you're insulting someone, some of your viewers. There's a line on the project that it says, I want, there's a line, I'm just going to give you one line of this project that it says, Allah wants his child back. So this, to me, when I'm reading that, I know that no Muslim believes that Allah has a child. So when you're saying it, Allah always has a servant. So you need to be cautious when you're saying these lines. You're disrespecting the Muslim audience or people who are watching the show, because it means that you're not honoring their beliefs. That's one of the things. And then I had a meeting with some people who can make or break my career. I'm walking into a room, they are asking me, so you're Persian? I said, yes, I'm Persian. Oh, okay, I'm Persian, it sounds nice. And I'm walking in, and then when I'm sitting in, and they say, so what part of Persia are you from, Iran or Iraq? And so what do you want to tell this person? But this person is the one who is greenlighting a project that's being shot about that region, and they are not educated enough to know the difference between Iran and Iraq and Persia.
But that's again goes back to what I always tell people that are in the business. I always say create your own opportunities, and whether I don't care what your background is, but especially in our communities, we get a lot of people complaining. And I say, stop complaining. First of all, I think that the audience needs to support our projects as we go. The same way, Tyler Perry projects and some other projects have been supported by the African American community, knowing that that's going to help Hollywood take notice. So the community needs to support. And secondly, we need to write this stuff because, as Navid was saying, look, I've written stuff, and I might not have the point of view or the perspective or the time necessarily to research the character that I'm going to do that's from Arkansas. I'm not going to fly to Arkansas and stay with some families and figure it out. But seriously, so we can't expect a lot of people, they have other ideas in their mind, and they're writing the project to get it done, and they go, okay, this is the Arab guy. He could be Iranian, he could be Iraqi, he could be Afghan. I'm not sure. He's just the Arab guy, and he's he's gonna say Allahu Akbar and do something.
Right.
And I think it's about collaboration then, right? Because it's like it's all being able to have an open dialogue with your writer and your director and as an actor and feeling safe and building a community amongst all of us artists and decision makers and creatives and being able to talk. Just like you said, I'm not thinking necessarily about the person from Virginia or whatever, or this person or whatever they think. And it's just feeling confident enough and being educated enough to go and talk to somebody just human to human, and also as an artist, and just come up with your own ideas, whether it be on the page or, on the day when you're acting.
I think it's really hard when you're starting out too to not feel confident in your own knowledge. Like, you can know something is wrong, and you maybe are hired for one day as a few-line co-star, but something is intrinsically wrong. You may not have enough confidence or feel safe enough to be like, hey, I need to speak up and say something. And if we don't ever speak up, then it's never going to get fixed.
Sure. I mean, there have been times when, they write things for me to have come in on a headscarf, and I've never worn a headscarf to an audition. And that's because I grew up with a very strict cultural family, and none of those women wore a headscarf, okay? Only when they went to pray. And so for me, that's the representation of my true culture and what I knew growing up. And I think that the Western media wants to focus on what's blasted in the media. And I feel as an artist, it's my job to educate people that actually know, here are photos of my family in the 60s and 70s and their candies, and my dad was in a Beatles cover band, and all this kind of stuff, literally, so that they then have that information. And it has shifted people's perspectives, and they've changed the way that they've written things for me.
Well, I want to ask one question too, because this is for the audience. And when you're just starting out, or when you're going for roles and you don't have as much say, you brought it up, Aline, very well. How do you tackle this? And do you feel a sense of responsibility towards what you're auditioning for? Like when you're getting these parts, or when you're going after, like you said, a veiled woman, or which could be a complex, interesting character or not. Or it could be that you're going for some of these, what we say is more stereotypical parts. But when you're first starting out, I think you have less authority or power to speak your mind, or to create your own project or things like that. So what would you recommend for the younger artist, or the more, less experienced or less?
I think that actually, I think people who are starting out today are in a much better position than even 10 years ago or 15 years ago. I think there is much more of an effort to create diversity now, and also to be sensitive to diversity in some ways. So I think actually, if you're a young actor today, and you're doing a day play, or you're or a few lines on a show, I think you actually can be bolder and say, and educate, like you were saying, bring your personal knowledge of something and say, maybe this can I try it this way? Or, maybe, I think that conversation is probably more available to you than it was to a lot of us, a decade ago. And I think I would encourage people to always, if something feels wrong to you, or it feels reductive or stereotypical, or in some way just plain out racist, I would say something, and I think people are more open to that than you would think. Maybe they're not. I mean, sometimes they might be like, just shut up and say your line, and then you have your answer, But I think we actually live. The business and our culture has evolved a little bit to where I think people starting out today have a little bit more authority in that regard.
You have to, if I may, you have to try to stand up for yourself and who you are. Introduce, educate, but try not to be disrespectful or insult them. These people that are running this whole operation, okay? I could never keep my mouth shut. I always got myself in trouble, even from the day one, even when I had a one-liner. But those situations were the situations that opened more doors for me. Because then I said, okay, this is the way that's supposed to be. You can easily, if there is something wrong, instead of going and telling them, oh, this is wrong, go and say, I'm so sorry, I'm reading this. Is this what you meant? So then put the correct version of the line or the subtext in that question, which basically it becomes their idea, and they don't want to be wrong. They want to be right. You're educating them without insulting them. Just be outspoken. Trust me, it opens doors for you guys.
I do think that just from like a actor stand-up point of view, you do have to service your character. So if I really saw a character that was a woman that was really devout and would not leave the home this way, and this was 100% her identity, I would have no issue if I felt like that was something I'd never played before. If I could bring humanity and a complexity to it, I would have no issue representing that woman and that identity on screen if it was something that I knew I could connect to. Now, if it's just a woman in a headscarf because she's of this background and she's in front of Americans, that to me is a conversation that I want to kind of amend a little bit and say, actually, here are photos, or here's an example, or whatever. But again, if it was right for the character, then 100% I would do that.
Well, I think. Listen, the difficulty in being new and young and having the courage to go up and talk to them. Sometimes, like you said, you're there for a day. You go, I don't know who to talk to. Do I go to the director? What's going to happen? And then sometimes they don't hear you. Early in my career, I did a Chuck Norris movie.
Well, there was your first mistake.
There's my first mistake right there. But I honestly, I was trying to be, I thought, okay, I'm going to be the guy who's going to go there and show them. And listen, I went to the wardrobe fitting, and they go, I was playing an Afghan, this is before September 11th, an Afghan who was going to blow up a building in Chicago. And they go, here's your shirt, here's your pants, and here's your turban. I swear to God. And I go, listen, Afghans in America don't wear turbans. And the lady goes, the producers want you to wear a turban. I go, well, tell the producers, I've done my research, Afghans in America don't wear turbans. So the next day I go to my wardrobe, to my trailer, and there's the shirt, there's the pants, and there's what looks like a scarf. So I'm like, well, see, I would gladly wear the scarf. She's like, that's the turban, you just gotta roll it back up. So, and then I swear to God, anyone who would listen, I went on set. Chuck Norris's son, Eric Norris, was the director. I'm walking around in a stupid turban, feeling like an idiot, and I go to the director. I go, hey man, can I talk to you for a second? I go, I don't think my character would wear a turban. And he goes, I didn't want the turban either. My uncle wanted the turban. So his uncle, who's the exec producer, wants the turban. So now I'm in this situation, and I really felt bad about doing this part in the end. And it actually was a good experience to have, because after that I felt like, you know what? I'm really going to consider before I say yes to a part like this.
You know what the consolation is? It was such a great movie.
Oh, it was amazing. Yeah. It was the worst movie ever.
It was such a good movie.
Everybody saw that movie.
Everybody saw it.
Yeah,
It made your career.
It was great. Yeah.
You would not be here today if it wasn't for that movie.
I owe it all to
Well,
Chuck.
I want to ask you two ladies too, because we've talked a lot about the stereotypes of men and what they play. how is it different for you coming into parts? You know, as women, you may or may not be going up for the same types of roles. Maybe you're looked more broadly, or and do you feel, because I know you both kind of talked about falling into the margins, not being this or that. So how do you address that, or what has overcome those things for you moving forward?
So my experience is a little interesting, like it's mine, you know, it's personal. I don't know if I'm quintessentially Arab looking enough for Hollywood sometimes, because people tend to assume that I am whatever they are. So Armenians think I'm Armenian, and Persians think I'm Persian, and Latinos are like, mija, you're denying your heritage. I was like, I don't think so. And so, you know, as it happens, I grew up in Texas in a Latino neighborhood, and I speak Spanish, arguably as well as I speak Arabic. And so I've gotten to blur the lines a little bit, and I'm really lucky. And to stand up and say definitively, it should be this when it comes to diversity, feels like I'm gonna shoot myself in the foot. The pool is already so small for women, ethnic women. Do I really wanna make it smaller by standing up and saying, I will only do this? Do you know, so like, that's something that I struggle with, just 100% honestly. I don't know what the definitive answer is when it comes to that. I just feel like I have to navigate my own path with what feels true and authentic.
I think diverse is, you know, I think it's always great to see diverse actors playing whatever role that they can kind of fit into, whatever that might be. The goal is colorblind casting, right? You want like the whole world to Shonda Rhimes it out. Like you just want everybody to go, whatever, if it's, you know, I'm seeing a woman, then all of a sudden I'm gonna make it a black transvestite, which happened to me recently. You just kind of want them to see you as the actor and choose the best actor. And I think that's kind of what the goal is, and to kind of fall into that. But I mean, in the beginning of my career, I definitely went out for a lot of the like Arabian princess Disney roles, and that still happens, and kind of like the mythical, exotic-y looking things, and that still happens. And then whenever I get a part, they kind of bend the character more to fall into line with what I am at the end of the day, which has always been so lucky that people are willing to kind of do that. And that's just been my path personally. But also, I just wanted to say something about in the beginning of your career. In the beginning of my career, I had to wear like a lot of lingerie. You know what I mean? And now I'm like, nope. Like, you know, like that's the thing. It's just like, as a woman, they were always like, oh, this is your costume. And I was like, oh, no, like, you know, and now, so it's like kind of the same thing. It kind of like.
Mine was like prison jumpsuits and gangbanger outfits. Mine was not lingerie, just so we're clear.
So we all have our own set of circumstances. Exactly. But we're in it together as one. So, and now, you know, I'm just kind of like, again, if it doesn't service the character, I don't want to be like, oh, do you want to eat this? Like, it doesn't matter. That's not going to do anything for me. It's not going to create longevity in my career. I did that when I was 22. It's not interesting to me anymore. As a woman in her 30s, I want to play parts that are more in line with who I am. And so that's kind of what I seek out, and therefore I feel like that's what seeks me, if that makes any sense.
We are funny. I mean, they should just do Friends blonde version. I mean, why not? We just need one more person. I'm serious.
Need one more girl.
Yeah, exactly.
Would we wear turbans and lingerie? No.
I'll wear my
I
lingerie
don't
for
have a
the
problem.
Brown Friends version.
I'll be in my
Why
jumpsuit.
not?
It would be called My Friend.
Oh, my friend.
My
yeah.
friend.
Yeah.
My Friend.
Yeah.
Well, I do want to
writing
bring
itself.
comedy into this because, you know, you, Asif, and Maz have used comedy so much to break down boundaries and to create roles for yourself and opportunities. Can you talk about that a little bit? Was that at one point in your career where you just decided? Because both of you did more dramatic or different kinds of work before going in that route.
For me, it was that I wasn't handsome enough to get cast on 1 hours. So I could only do comedy, right? Wasn't it for you too?
Absolutely.
Yeah, but,
You were in prison jumpsuits, not lingerie.
no, I
Okay.
think I know exactly. I think I don't know. Maz has been doing stand-up for a long time. I didn't come from stand-up. I sort of have always done dramatic stuff and comedic stuff, and then once I fell into the Daily Show, then sort of got uber identified with my comedic side, which has been great. And actually, it's been a way of kind of doing roles and talking about things. You know, on the Daily Show, I was very fortunate that I got to not only do comedy but also comment on stuff that was in the zeitgeist, and also like within the entertainment industry. Suddenly people, I could have an opinion about it and use the comedic platform to talk about
Well,
that
and I
stuff.
love that you were the Muslim correspondent. You made it clear that you thought that was hilarious that you were being held up as a representative of
Right.
your
I mean,
more
I was the
culturally-
worst example. I mean, I was like, eating a pork chop and like, being like, I'm the Muslim guy, like, so, yeah, it's probably, but, again, that was, see, what we were doing on The Daily Show was we were parodying the culture at large. So that idea of even having a Muslim correspondent was a parody of like what happens in our culture, which is that like, let's have the Muslim guy wear a turban because that's what they all do, right? They all, and so,
I think it's beyond comedy. I think, again, it gives us the ability to create stuff. The beauty of comedy is you're constantly writing stuff. So that's the other thing I tell people. Once you, whatever level you're at. I mean, with now, given the fact that you can just shoot a little video, put something fun together, just put it out there. It's a ripe time to do that, and that allows you to, if you have to take a part in a Chuck Norris movie wearing a turban, then you can go off and do a video of some sort that's funny and just feel good about yourself a little bit. But it's just, I think it allows you to create stuff. I really do. I think that's what we need more of. We need more people behind the cameras, writing, executives, people that are creating this stuff so that you go. There's just so much. There was a movie, A Girl Walks Home Alone at Night. That was Anna Lily Amanpour, and it's a Western vampire movie in black and white, and it's an Iranian writer-director. So that's great. It has nothing to do with any of these other stereotypical topics, right?
That sounds
Just
amazing.
create.
Yeah, that was going on at Sundance a lot, actually. I was there this year, and there were so many Middle Eastern filmmakers at Sundance. I mean, it was really kind of down the line. There was a lot of, American and Black American, and then really in the foreign landscape, I mean, there was a film called Under the Shadow, which was this Farsi horror film, and
Bobak directed it.
yeah, and literally, I was having a thing with these ginormous producers, and all they could talk about, because of my, region, they were like, yeah, you got to meet these filmmakers, and this is the best horror film. This is the most original horror film we've ever seen, and it was an all Farsi-speaking, all Persian, Iranian filmmaker, and that was going on a lot, and I feel like that happens a lot in the independent film landscape, and I think that we can all become independent filmmakers or seek out those kinds of creatives and talk to them about, I want to play a Hispanic American woman, or I want to play black, whatever it is that you want to do and create, then write that or go and find a collaborator and kind of make that happen and change people's perspectives of who you are. If you have the ability to seek that out, I think that's so important. I saw so much of that at Sundance, and it was rewarded and it was applauded.
I mean, one of the things that I have to add about this film, it was, they were running to put this project together for almost a year and a half, 2 years. Right from the beginning, I was involved. I was trying to help them. Nobody here wanted to help financially. Nobody wanted to jump in. Everybody was saying, "Oh, we want something different," but nobody wanted to get involved. And finally, they were able to raise the money from overseas, and then I helped them to cast the film. Now the film is unbelievable. Everybody, wherever you go, they're talking about this film.
Yeah, the buzz was crazy. Same with Birth of a Nation, the Nate Parker. I mean, there's an example of somebody who came off of like Beyond the Lights and had this big film career kind of buzzing for him, and said, no, I want to pause because there's a story I want to tell, and I want to raise all this money. And I'm sure his agents thought he was crazy.
Yeah, he told them he was not going
He
to
was
take
not going to
any
take
more
any
parts
and
until
he
got it
took,
made.
a year and a half, 2-3 years off of being in front of the camera, and this was his passion project, and it was the highest selling film in the history of festivals, thus far, for $17.5 million. And so that kind of passion, that kind of wanting to tell a story, like Maz is talking about, creating your own stories and whether it's about being American and living as an Arab American or a Jewish American or whatever it might be. Whatever your story is, if you want to tell it with passion and like vigor, I think people respond to that.
But that, again, going back to what he just said, none of it's easy because it goes. I was just reading, for lack of a better example, I was reading the Cosby's book before all this stuff. I mean, whatever. But I was reading his book, And it was talking about how when he was he was already a star, and he was trying to make get these movies made, and some of the studios weren't making the movies because it was a black theme, and just wasn't really, they didn't get it, and so he had to fund a lot of this stuff himself. I think he helped fund Marvin Van Peebles, one of his first films, because the executives didn't get it. And I've just experienced myself making a movie that we had to, again, getting it funded, we had to do Indiegogo, we had to twist people's arms. It really is that's not an easy road either, but if you're passionate about it, then hopefully it all comes together. And hopefully the community goes out and supports these things, because they need to.
And then cast color blindly.
Right.
You know, like it's up to us to like push that conversation also, and as creatives also embrace one another when
Or
we see each
cast
other.
brown people and make the white guys the bad guys.
Yeah.
Actually, there are
That's
a
what we
lot
did.
there was a lot of white terrorists when they did some research more recently. Because they felt politically incorrect.
Allahu Akbar.
So yeah, there you go.
Peaky Blinders.
That's right. But I do want to go back to what you were talking about, because you were in a short film, and you were a Muslim detective, or
One of the first things I ever did when I moved to LA was a film where I played a Muslim American female police officer who was striving to be a detective. This was obviously a comedy, who got put on a pignapping case. Hilarity ensued as she was put in situations that were not obvious, for lack of a better word, kosher. I'm making horrible puns. What was amazing about it was a Islamic female American filmmaker who had written this story and kind of wanted to see something aspirational and funny on camera. And I had probably the most fun I've ever had doing that project, but it was hysterical. I was getting ready to leave to go shoot in Florida on an organic pig farm, and the swine flu epidemic broke out. Oh, God. And I was like, not a good idea. Like, that was the only thing that would have dissuaded me from doing it. But I just thought the premise was so kind of outlandish, and it was done in the spirit of really ridiculous physical comedy, and I loved it.
Well, I love that we have these possibilities. And also, I want to bring it back to you, Asif, because you did Halal in the Family, which is a web series, and you mentioned you're turning it into an animation. Is that what's happening
we're
now?
hoping to take it out as an animated series. And, what we did with Halal in the Family was, it actually started off as a sketch on The Daily Show. And then where Katie Couric, I think, had said, maybe what American Muslims need is their own Cosby Show. And so on The Daily Show, we took that literally and created a show about this family called the Cosbys, QU''OSBY. And then, and it was basically the Cosby Show parody, but with a Muslim family, and they are basically the whitest Muslim family. They're so afraid that everybody's going to think that they're terrorists, And so, cut to later, we created this web series because there seemed to be an interest in me creating something to speak about Islamophobia or speak about that stuff. And so we took on some of these real issues that Muslim Americans deal with in the real world. Infiltration of mosques and cyberbullying and all these issues. And we sort of created these web series, but they're very funny, and they're actually total parody sitcoms. And you can find them on YouTube or Funny or Die and whatever. And so we called it Halal in the Family because by then Bill Cosby had got himself in a bit of hot water. And so we changed the name, which I think to a better name. And what's been great about it is that, I just put these out there. We made them for no money. I didn't pitch it to a network. I didn't take it out. I just put it on the internet because I wanted it to just get out there. And they're only 5 minutes long, each one. And there was such a appetite for this content that I was blown away by. We got something like 600 million media hits because the media went crazy because, first of all, the idea of having a brown family and then a Muslim American brown family, and this idea of taking on this. So it was like, it just felt to me like it was a lesson for me in like just the idea of creating something, putting it out there, and realizing that like actually there is a huge appetite for stories that are not just about white people, and I think that's what, I mean, Hollywood is slowly starting to, like, I think, see that more, although the Oscars wouldn't indicate that. But, you know,
Right.
I think it is happening slowly.
Right. Why the turn to animation? Just curious, from live action.
Only because I think that by doing animation, you can have, it can be bolder. It can actually be braver and more absurd and subversive in a way in animation that only animation can do. Like, I think, you know, you can have, like Osama bin Laden can actually walk through the door.
Right.
You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah.
In animation, and he can't really. in
Actually,
a-
Norman Lear said this. He said in today's day and age that it used to be sitcoms were where we pushed the envelope, and now it's animation.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. I see. So, so I think we're getting very close to our question from the audiences. Should we start that now, or? Actually, I'm going to ask one last question before we turn to that, because being Middle Eastern and South Asian on this panel, what I want to ask is how encouraging or supportive were your families of you going into this? Because that is such a, a big deal.
I'm just going to go ahead. So I was in college. I had been accepted to grad school to go do my MFA in acting, and I was at like a general family function. And like some great cousin, aunt, somebody was like, Aline, what are you gonna do? And I was like, oh, I'm gonna go. And before I could get out, go be an actress, my mom was like, she's gonna be a nurse. I was like, this is news to me. And when I first was attempting to move to Los Angeles, I tried to convince my clearly very supportive mother that she needed to support me financially because I was gonna be auditioning all day, every day, and I wouldn't have time for a real job. I don't know what delusional dream world I was living in, but she looked at me and was like, if you're gonna do it, I support you, but you're gonna have to do it on your own. And they were always like, whatever makes you happy at the end of the day, like, it just matters that you're safe and happy, but you're gonna have to do it on your own. We're not gonna like financially support you.
Wow.
Well,
Anyway.
I mean, I don't know. I think everybody here is multicultural, but I grew up in a very strict, very, very strict home. And we weren't allowed to stay after school, nor were we allowed to really leave the fence when we were little. So I was not allowed to participate in any kind of after-school programs unless I could convince my family that it would benefit my college applications. So I was allowed to do some acting, but I wasn't allowed to be on a stage with a boy, because then that meant I would bring shame to the family and I would kind of ruin their name, because people would talk about me, which we know is a big deal. You're not allowed to be talked about, you're not allowed to be seen with a man. So I kind of left home, and I put myself through university, and I was the first girl to go to university in my family in America, and I got a degree in English and journalism, and then I packed my mom's suitcase from Kabul, which had 3 wheels. It was missing a wheel, and I moved to California, and I'd only been on a plane once before. And I got like 15 jobs, and I started taking acting class, and I was fully supporting myself on credit cards, and everybody was not really talking to me. And then I just got lucky and I started working, and somehow my whole family lives here now. And no, I'm not lying. No, not at my house, thank God. But now they all live here, and I remember my mom, who is the reason why I'm an actress, because she's just a crazy, amazing human being. She called everybody and she was like, oh, I'm telling everybody to watch you on television tonight. You look so beautiful, Azita. I was like, Mom, I'm playing a dominatrix. She's like, oh, I don't care. Your makeup is perfect. So I guess you just got to get on the TV and then they support you.
Yeah, that was what happened.
Listen, the parents, I've learned, or your parents want what's best for you. A lot of us come from these cultures that are very traditional. They want the lawyer, the doctor, the engineer. There's definitely the card they play where they say, we have a name in the community, don't ruin the name. And you think you're supposed to make your parents happy until a certain age, and you realize, wait a minute, you live once. I can't live for my parents. I got to live my life for me. And so I had done plays since I was a kid. I kept wanting to do acting. First they said no, and they said you should be a lawyer, so I thought I was going to be a lawyer. Then I was going to be a professor.
Doctor, engineer.
Right, yeah, exactly. No, then I was going to be a professor for a little bit, and I started a PhD program at UCLA, and then I was doing a play while I was there, and I thought, wow, I really love the play a lot more than the PhD program. And so I told my mom, I said, I'm dropping out of that PhD program to go be an actor, and she said, She said, at least you didn't become a lawyer, you didn't become a professor, at least become a mechanic. No, and I asked her, I go, what? She goes, be a mechanic. I go, where'd you get mechanic? And she goes, because if a revolution happens, we came from Iran, there was a revolution. If a revolution happens, you could be a mechanic anywhere in the world. People need mechanics, nobody needs an actor. Those are very true words.
A lot of common sense there.
Yeah, but the fact is that once you realize you love to do it, then you go, and then they come around. Even if they don't like you at first, they'll come around.
My parents forced me into acting. I wanted to be a doctor. And they were like, no son of ours will be a doctor. You will be an artist. And sleep on
Lucky
our sofa.
us.
That is our dream. I don't know why I have Middle
tables.
Eastern parents, because I don't. No, I think it's very true. Like I think my parents, my mother was incredibly supportive of my my dream to be an actor, and I think they kind of were like, we have no money to give you, so go and do it on your own, and I did, and then once I got on TV, then they became critics. And then I would be on the Daily Show. My dad would be like, "Who is picking out your ties? I don't like that tie you were wearing last night." You know. So suddenly they were like they were critics. So, but it's true. Then they tell everybody at the mosque to watch me on TV. You know.
Okay.
Well, me, it goes along. I mean, I did what I
Your
wanted.
parents still don't know that you're an actor. Do
And
they?
now that was
I know, they don't know.
There's
still,
a guy on
they still think-
Homeland that looks just
He's
like you.
You.
His name
Why
is
did
Abu
you not
Nazir.
get that job?
He looks just like you.
No, it has been good. It has been okay. I mean, I started doing what I wanted to do since I was very young. I didn't care what the people think of me. So, I mean, just be truthful to yourself. That's it.
Okay, so we're going to ask some of your questions now. And actually, ironically, the first one I have here is for you, Navid, and it's, how did your family and entourage react to your controversial roles, and how did you deal with it? Sounds like they didn't have a problem.
Wow. The most controversial role that I did was the stoning of Soraya, when I played Ali. This was the reaction. My dad brought all our props from Iran because we couldn't find anything in Jordan. So he packed his suitcase. He flew to Jordan to bring us the props. And my mom saw the film in Iran, and I don't know if you have ever seen the film. My mom saw the film in Iran. She called me and she was crying on the phone. And I said, "Mom, why are you crying?" She said, "I was just watching the stoning of Soraya." I said, "Mom, why? This is not for you." She said, No, I'm not crying because of the film. I'm crying because I know you and I know what you had to put yourself through to play the role. So I'm crying because of the pain that it caused you. So this was the reaction. But the community, the Iranian community, they were not very supportive. They printed that Navid Negahban is making movies against Iran and Islam. But and I haven't been back since I did the stoning of Soraya.
Wow. And have you not been able to see your mother then, or is that?
My mother passed away 2 years ago.
Sorry.
So-
God bless her.
So no, she was visiting, but
So
then
now she's
I couldn't
with you
go.
all the time.
Yeah, she's around. She's around once in a while.
Exactly. So here's another one. This is for the whole panel, and it says, "I've been told that my last name, Arafat, is a difficult sell. 10 years ago, I switched to a less
Cuban, right?
Arabic-sounding
Cuban?
surname. I did see an increase in auditions and work, and I remain disappointed because most of the, not of the time, they're just disappointed because they would like to go back to their original name, but what
What
are
did
your
they change
thoughts
it
on that? This is Haneen Arafat Murphy. Is that it changed to Murphy?
It's a tough call because look, yeah, Arafat's a
Wait,
serious.
they went from Arafat to Murphy? Is that right? Did I hear that right?
Listen, I'd marry somebody for a new last name.
Was?
I mean, I didn't change it. I wrestled with that when I was younger because people are like, "Where are you from? You look Brazilian." And so, I just didn't know. And somebody said, if they learned how to say, this is a very famous somebody, said, if they learned how to say Zellweger or Schwarzenegger, they'll learn how to say Ghanizada. And as I've gone to work, I've had very successful actors look at me and go, Ghanizada, now, but you could be Hispanic. Like, why didn't you make it something? And it still sometimes comes up, and I feel a little bit, I'm not sure, but I truly believe that my last name will be what takes my name around the world, and that I'm not going to be just limited to something that's not me. It's authentically who I am. So I just stuck with it, and I stick by it.
They asked me to change my name. They said, with this last name, there's no way that you're going to be able to get the job. I said, there will come a day that the people, they can spell my name. That day, they are still making a couple of mistakes, but it's getting there. So I don't have a problem. I'm very proud of my last name. Just keep your own last name. Your last name, it doesn't make you are the one who's making the last name.
Well, Arafat is tough, but you could have gone, is it a Murphy? You could have gone, Era Murphy.
Era Murphy.
Era Murphy.
Sure.
That's
Rafi.
a Rafi.
I think it's a personal. It's a very personal thing. It's a personal call. I think it's really how
You
you
can always
ultimately
go back if you want to. I mean, unless you're like really, starring first billing in a movie, you can change your name. People change their names when they get married. Women change their names. I think it's fine. Some people, Gugu Mabathura, who I love, and Golshefti Farani, these are beautiful people that have the Gugu Mabathura as a name, and Saoirse Ronan. That's also an example of a name where people are like, how the hell do we say that? And Ryan Gosling explained it to them. So maybe one day Ryan Gosling will explain how to say your name.
There are, like you guys were saying earlier, there are more roles that are multiracial. So an Arafat doesn't always have to play an Arab. They could be just a friend in the show, right?
Yeah, of course.
I suppose, yeah.
Bueno.
This one is actually for you, Maz. You do such an expansive repertoire of characters in your comedy routines, Indian, Middle Eastern, Russian, African. What is your process for developing the layers of the characters to make them so complete?
Well, thank you for recognizing the talent that I have. They call me the Persian Daniel Day-Lewis. I was going to change my last name to Lewis. No, it's funny. I always thought I did the accents pretty well, and then I realized that I'm just okay. And so as a comedian, what's great is you can throw out the accent, and then you can say, I know I'm kind of messing it up, because someone's always going to come up to you and be like, that's not how Indians sound, or that's not how Russians sound. You're going to go, well, whatever. I didn't study with anybody. I'm just doing it on stage. So again, being a comedian has its benefits. You don't have to nail everything. There's no one, even if they judge me, I just kind of laugh it off. But that said, if you're going to play a part, hopefully you spend a little time learning the accent. I actually played an Indian in that show, Knights of Prosperity. Remember that one?
Yes, I do.
Yes, you do. Yes, of course. And it's funny. My brother-in-law's here, and I was going to the audition. I was playing an Indian guy. I'm driving to the audition, and I do kind of a decent impersonation of my father-in-law, his dad. And as I'm going, and his father has his Indian accent, it's like this. Hello, how are you? Good to see you. Hello, it's up here, like that. So as I'm driving to this audition, I'm going, should I do that voice? Should I go, hello, how are you? And I go, no, that's gonna, coming out of an older Indian gentleman, that sounds right. But coming out of me, that's gonna sound cartoony. So I go, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna tone it down. I just say, hello, how are you? What is, just keep it like that, just simple, a little bit. And I show up, and it's me and an Indian guy. There's an Indian guy who's there who is around my age. And I go, hey, how you doing? He's like, I'm fine, thank you very much. And I go, oh my God. I go, he's doing, and I got the part. I toned it down and I got the part.
Diversity.
I was that other guy.
You were the other guy exactly in the room.
I think that the accent thing, you taught me how to do a Persian accent.
Yes.
You have to basically say, excuse me, how do I get to Cadillac?
That's it.
You just have to say Cadillac. Do you know how to get to Cadillac?
He and I were in a play together in downtown LA, and I was driving on La Cienega.
Why did I miss that one?
Listen, it was Homebody Kabul, and I was driving on La Cienega, and this Iranian guy, as I'm driving, he's like, pull down my window. This is like 10 years ago, and he goes, exactly. He goes, excuse me, you know where is Cadillac? I go, what? He goes, Cadillac. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm Iranian. He can speak Farsi to me or Persian, but he was looking for Cadillac, the street. And then I told him the story, and that became how he learned
Became
how
like
to.
the way I learned how to do it. You and Sean too. That was it. Like that was how I learned how to do a Persian accent. It's like I always have to say that before I do, because I go up for a lot of Persian roles, like you go up for a lot of Indian roles.
Of course.
Oh my gosh. Okay, well, I'm reading this question because actually, Maz, it plays into something we mentioned earlier. How can we get a Mensa actor, actress as a superhero in a Hollywood blockbuster movie? How would that help increase diversity in other roles? And Navid, you should know we talked about you as Superman. So
I've auditioned for, like recently, in the X-Men series, I think, no, NDAs. I don't know that I'm allowed, but hold on. I don't know.
Never
but
mind.
that's been, and even recently on something in the TV world, in a Marvel universe, actually 2 things. So, and it was Middle Eastern only on the female side. So they are looking at that, at least from my personal experience. It's out there. It's definitely happening. And I know that I've talked to them about this role in Marvel, a character named Dust, who's a young Afghan girl. Her name is Soraya in the comics, and she kind of spins and kills Taliban. So I was like, oh, hey, me.
We still have not seen the brown Middle Eastern South Asian hero in movies. We have the villain. You can be like as a brown guy, you can sort of be villainous, you can be nerdy, you can be funny, you can be all that. What you can't be is sexual. And it's often the opposite for brown women. Like you're often over sexualized. And so that superhero character would be a huge. Somebody should write that, Maz. It's sort of like the thing to have that sort of heroic sexual brown man would be.
Wait for Jimmy to come out.
Jimmy Westwood.
Jimmy Westwood.
Yeah, that's
American
it.
hero. Well, we've done. The movie that I wrote that Navid is actually in as well. It's Jimmy Westwood, American Hero. I describe it as the Persian Pink Panther meets Borat. It's still silly comedy and it's fun, and I think that it's acceptable that you can have that. But
It's
you're
very
right.
funny of
To
you.
have
That's still
a
it's still a comedy, right? Like you can do it in the realm
To
of
have Superman
comedy.
be like, so put him on.
Yeah, to have a real superhero who's brown. I don't think we're there yet.
You know what's amazing? I'll tell you. I was there was an Iranian guy, Hamed Haddadi, who was he was from Iran, basketball player, tall guy, like 7'2" or something, and he got drafted to play on the Memphis Grizzlies. So an Iranian guy from Iran goes to Memphis, and I was there doing a show, and we went out for drinks afterwards, and I'm in the bar, and you've got these hardcore Southern white dudes coming up to him going, Haddadi, I loved you last night. You scored, da-da-da-da. I love you, man. And I turn to him, I go, you know how much you're doing for the peace process between Iran and America? And you're right, a superhero like that, because once people stop thinking of your background and they go, I love that character, right? That's happened obviously it's happened for the African American community, it's happened for other communities, and I think hopefully it'll happen, I don't know when, but hopefully it'll happen.
We'll start a Brown James Bond campaign.
James Bond.
Hashtag Brown Bond. It started here.
Brown Bond. I like that.
Okay, so let's see. How does the panel feel about the casting of Joseph Fiennes as Michael Jackson and Middle Eastern actors being cast in the role of East Indian actors and vice versa?
Well, I think Maz and I can speak to this.
Yeah,
First of all, the Joseph Fiennes thing is a little bit ludicrous, right? I don't think. Who thinks it's a good idea? Right, exactly. One guy. You think it's a good idea? He may. Right, because Michael was white. Right. I mean, that's the filmmaker's argument, isn't it? Like that's what they're arguing, which is that Michael. But again, it's
I guess, listen, man, I always get upset when people judge something before it's out. So maybe there's something to be said about let's see how they play with it. But you're right. Obviously, there was a lot of black actors who could have done that part. I personally feel like well, eventually, as it goes down, yeah, with makeup, right. No, but listen. I think that I personally feel that if I've gotten parts as Indians, I've gotten parts as Mexicans, and I don't mind if somebody auditions and gets that part, as long as they try to still be
Learn
good
the
at
accent.
it. Learn the accent.
Yeah,
I think.
no,
I think
but just briefly, like I think the argument on the other side of it is that there's a lot of roles for white guys. And for a white guy to play an iconic African American, even if his skin was lighter, is sort of playing into sort of the whitewashing, as it were, of those. You know, like it's an opportunity actually for an African American actor, and that's why I think the other argument is that Joseph Fiennes can play, you know, 1 million people in history who were white that they're making movies about, you know. So that yeah.
Yeah, but ultimately, I started my career in Germany. In Germany, nobody cared where I'm coming from, as long as I was able to create the illusion of the character. I played French, Italian, Russian. I didn't have a problem. Here in America, okay, it took me a while to be given the opportunities to play a variety of the races or nationalities and playing all different characters. It's been good for me. I love to do characters. I think we are talking about the prejudice, we are talking about pigeon boxing, we are talking about stereotyping. I think our world, it should be completely colorblind. We are artists. We are creating an illusion. If I can create that illusion, it doesn't matter where I'm coming from. It doesn't matter what the color of my skin is. If I'm right for that part, play it. I don't have a problem. I mean, if a Latino actor comes and plays an Iranian guy, I don't have a problem with it. But just be respectful toward the culture, study, understand the culture.
Can I just say that I think I disagree with you in one regard, which is that I think that colorblindness is true, and I think it should be. But the problem is that you and I and Maz and all the people on this panel, we don't get to play white people, right? You don't get cast as like a white guy. You're not going to play Joseph Fiennes in his biopic. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Like you're not.
The
so
Vanilla
the
Ice story won't be him.
So what I'm saying is that yes, colorblind casting is great, and we are artists. I agree with you. However, I think there is something larger in the culture, which is the reason why all the Oscar nominees are white, because white people get to play anything they want, including brown people, and it seems black people, whereas brown and black people only have to play brown and black people, and only brown and black people who are famous. Usually, like, you know, try to tell the story of like an average Persian family living in Westwood who are just like you know, having, what's that movie, Joy? It's about a white woman who invents a mop. You try to fucking make a story about a Persian guy, nobody's gonna make that movie. Nobody's gonna make a movie about a Persian guy who invented a mop. But because it's a white woman, it's really interesting, you know? So what I'm saying is we don't get to play those roles. So when those roles come along, like, you know, in The Martian, which is a book, by the way, where there's a character who is Indian, and his name is, I think, Kapoor, right? And it was played by a black guy, right? And they didn't even change the name. They just said, like, well, maybe he's half Indian and he's half black, and we'll keep the name. So that's what I mean. It sort of becomes like, in white people's, you know, mind, it just all becomes the same. Like, you know, you're Persian, you're, you know, whatever. But the point is that, like, to stick to that authentic, you you know, like there's a big difference between an Indian guy and a black guy, you know, and for them to just say, well, he doesn't have to be Indian, he can be black, because, and I understand why, you know, maybe it was that the guy's he's an Oscar-nominated actor, he's very good, I love him, but should he really be playing an Indian character in a book? It's okay to say, all right, I want to, you know, if it was just an original screenplay, but it's based on, you know, a source material that actually says
When
what
there's
it is.
source material, I think it gets difficult when it's an actual person or you know they're basing it on a region of the world like gods of
I remember when the
Egypt or
Facebook
whatever.
movie came out, and there was so much controversy over Max Minghella playing an Indian character, and it's like,
But Max is Indian.
no, there was tons of controversy around it. Like, he wasn't Indian enough. So like, but this is what I'm saying. Is like we're taking a pool that's already so small, and either forcibly making it smaller or trying to expand it. And like, we're saying this is enough. Like, is 1/16 Indian enough? For me, maybe sometimes. Is it authentic? Like, is it authentic? I think is the question that it always has to come back to. And like, I don't know what the right or wrong answer is when it comes to should a Middle Eastern actor be allowed to play a South Asian and vice versa. Like, I can't pretend to know what the definitive answer is.
I agree with you in that. I mean,
authenticity.
For me, I think we both are thinking the same way. See, I don't have a problem. Yes, you're right, 100% right. I'm fully backing you up. But what I'm saying, we don't want it to be done to us. We shouldn't do it to the other people.
You should
See,
be
the
able
thing-
to, play
yes.
it across the board.
What we need to do, we need to educate them and tell them, you know what? I'm standing right here. I can play those parts. Just give me a chance, give me the opportunity to be able to show you what I can do. The Atlas Shrugged. The movie, I don't know, you guys know the book. On the first movie, I read the book and I wanted to play Stadler. And I went there. I went for audition. The people who were in the room, all these guys, they are people who I'm paying money to go see their movies. They are standing there. I walked in. After I walked out, the director told the casting director that I have my Stadler. I don't want to see anybody else. So I played Dr. Stadler on the first Atlas Shrugged. Is iconic. The character is an American character, and I played that guy. So for us, telling them, no, you cannot do it, but we have to be allowed to do things, I think we need to say, okay, guys, please, let's open it up to everybody. Let everybody comes in, give them a chance to do it. But I understand it's also business. Who brings the money
It's
and
a
who
real
gets
person. I mean,
that's-
like, I tested or work. I mean, obviously, at the end, at bottom of the line, it's me, and there's Black American or a white girl. It's very rare that I'm in a room full of like other Middle Eastern or South Asian girls. And a lot of the times in the beginning of my career, really big movies, I lost to Rosario Dawson. You know, it was like it just kind of that like thing where it was like, okay, or Olivia Munn. So it was like they kind of like. It was just kind of a quality that everybody was bringing to the role that they were looking for. And I feel like, yes, I think it's the quality and the essence of who you are.
I also think we did actually a private meeting once with casting to try to get more of these types of backgrounds and roles. And one of the things that was discussed was how do we get them sent out more often for more roles. But one of the things that we came up against was, well, as a talent rep, I might have 5 chances to book this part. So I'm going to send out my 5 best chances. If that role doesn't say a specific ethnicity, do I want to take one of my chances? Because that's how I make money. Am I going to send out somebody that they're not asking for? It's a possibility that that person will get the part if they got in front of them. But that's how I make my bread and butter as a talent agent. So you always have to look at also what their motivations are. So I think you're right, Navid. What it comes back to, though, is can you develop that relationship with your representative and try to get them to go to bat for you?
And also, go ahead.
I'm just jumping. I agree with you 100%. There have been projects that I wasn't submitted by my agent, because my agent thought that, oh no, there is no way that he's going to be able to get this part. I went Powder Blue, the film that I did with Forrest Whitaker. In that film, the character, the doctor, is not a Middle Eastern, or doesn't look anything like me. He is an older guy. The way that's written, he is more, he's older. He doesn't even look like me. But I walked into the room and I booked a job. There have been jobs that I went in and I had to push it. I had to call the casting director.
Yeah, I'll send a tape if
I've-
I get a no. I'll go and record it, and I'll say, send me the sides, and I'll send and it goes far, far down the line. And they may shut the door and hire a blonde girl or whatever it is, but 100 times out of 100 times, those casting directors bring me
So
back in on
I want to
something
bring
else.
it to another question because it's running along these lines, and it says diversity is feeling very black and white at the moment, and part of the reason it feels like other minorities don't really have a big star spokesperson like Will Smith or Spike Lee, and they're saying that without that, if you're not a star, how is it possible for you to speak out and be taken seriously and also have a career? What are your thoughts on that?
I came from Germany. I was already working in Germany. I came over here. I arrived in '93 until my career started in 2003 here. So for 7 years, 8 years, I didn't get a job. I did a short film. The short film went to Slamdance, won the grand jury, got nominated for Best Actor. The film came to Los Angeles, opened doors for me. I moved to Los Angeles in 2000. For the first 6 months, I was living out of my car. Literally, in the back of my car, I had a printer, I had my resume. At that time, it was still hard copy, and I had boxes of headshots. I still have the bar that I used to hang my clothes on it, on the back of my car. I have it in my current car because every time I look back, I remember where I came from. I had one of the cigarette chargers. My printer was connected to my cigarette charger. I would print my resume. Every morning, I had to call my friends, get the hard copies of the breakdowns. Every morning, I would go and knock on everybody's door, every casting director. Good morning. I would put my headshot, I would walk away. Good morning, I would put my headshot on and I would walk away. And some of the jobs that I got, Homeland Security that I got, Homeland Security was the same thing. I went to Robert Ulrich's office and I sat there. My headshot, I said, I don't have any place to go. I'm just going to sit here. I'm not saying do what I did, but I sat there for about 3 or 4 hours, and finally Robert came outside and says, they're saying that you want to see me. I said, Robert, you have been trying to cast this role for weeks. Give me 5 minutes. I think I can show you what I can do. I walked in and I says, why haven't you been in here? I got the part. I did the Homeland. That was a pilot that came out. So it's up to you how you want to do it. I love my people who have been working for me or with me, but I think they don't know who I am. Nobody knows who you are except you. So don't BS yourself. Don't think that, oh, I am this when you are here. But if you are here and somebody looks at you that you are here, fight against it. Prove yourself. Prove that you are who you are and you want to go out there, you want to go get the job. And since 2003 until now, I've done about almost 185 titles.
Wow.
So,
That's impressive.
but I
From the
run
back of
for
a
it.
car. It's amazing.
I don't think that it's about having superstars speak for us. I think the best thing we could have, again, I keep going back to it, are directors and writers and producers from these backgrounds who say, hey, I'm doing something fun, come be a part of it. Again, that's what I did with my film. So I was able to call him, I was able to call my friends and say, guys, come down and have fun. Now, whether the film makes $100 million or makes $5, we had fun. It was great, and nobody was there to tell us what to do. And so ultimately, again, I go back to it. If you can make your own projects, the project she just talked about when she went down and was an investigator investigating pigs.
Pig napping.
I mean, it's you have
It is
some
on
of
the internet.
some of the most some of the most fun you have is when you're in your own project. You don't have to worry about someone from the studio and then the network and then all these other people telling you what to do and having to go and talk to them and go, listen, Iranians, don't drive Toyotas. We drive Mercedes. Or whatever it is, BMWs. Don't you know this? No, but I think it's not about superstars. It's about getting
Support.
yourself, even if you're an actor, come up with something with a few of your friends and just shoot it.
Yeah, also, I just think in general, as most of us, I think, are minorities or immigrants or families or immigrants or refugees or asylum seekers, whatever. I think we all know that you just have to work really hard, I think by example of your parents, and that's no different in Hollywood, either as an artist, but especially as a minority artist, especially as somebody who's already marginalized because you look a little bit different than everybody else. That's actually a benefit to you to stand out and kind of be different and weird. It just depends on how hard you're willing to work and how much you're willing to sacrifice and how long you're willing to sleep in the back of your car and how much work you're willing to put in to like make people notice you and how good you are in the room. How prepared are you at the end of the day? Like, people will remember that, what you did to get there and how prepared you were when you showed up, how on point your accent was or whatever it was, or how prepared you were in your comedy turns, and that's what people remember. If you're good, they remember you, so work on your skills. That's the most important thing. You gotta be better than every 98% of the other people you're competing against as a minority, and that's the bottom line.
And also, the world has changed now, with the internet and YouTube and stuff. Like, unlike, I think, when we were coming up, like, you can create something and put it on the internet, and 1 million people can click on it and like it, and that gets the attention of people who are making films and making television, and that they're looking at that stuff, so
Signed by huge talent agents off of Vine.
and we are seeing that.
you have an opportunity out there, if you're starting out today, to do that and to create content in a way that was never available before,
Let your freak flag fly.
Exactly. Well,
Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. Just get together with your friends, support each other. On the weekend, instead of you're wishing to be, take one weekend and just be.
Well, we're
Get the
gonna have
camera,
to,
shoot it together.
We're going to have to wrap it up, and I want to give a big round of applause to this amazing panel. Thank you so much for being here with us. And thank all of you for coming out tonight. We hope it's been helpful and informative, and we wish you the best, and we hope to see all of you one day on the screen taking it further. Thank you.